Welcome back. You just heard Dirty Dynamite, the new single from the album of the same name from Krokus. And with us tonight, he is the long stick that goes boom, Marc Storace of Krokus. How are you doing, man?
I'm fine, Rustin. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Hello, everybody out there.
Well, it's wonderful, as always, to talk to you. Glad to have you guys back with a new album that I want to talk about in a minute. But first, let's talk about the changes. Mandy Meyer is back in the band.
Yeah. Am I glad? Yeah, well, it was actually Fernando's suggestion, because last year we had Mandy on stage with us live in Japan because Fernando was feeling ill, and so Mandy replaced him, and we had a great time there. And of course, lots of memories with Mandy because of the past Hellraiser tour together. And anyway, so when we got back, Fern said, it would be a great idea if we kept Mandy in the band, if he wants to go for it. And so we tried it out, and we've already played a concert in Germany last December, a live thing, the Knockout Festival in Karlsruhe, and it went really great. We all feel great together, nice harmony, and opposite to what people might think, because of having a third guitar player, it doesn't make the band any noisier because they don't all play together at the same time, So it's really interesting. Nice stuff. Good to have him back.
Nice. And the flip side of that, the downside for fans, I guess, but Freddie Steady stepped down again. You guys tapped Danny Lobel of Helloween for a few live shows coming up in May, I think it is. But is there a long-term plan?
Well, we're going to play it by ear, and we're going to keep another guy, start with rehearsing with another guy too, and keep him warm in case that schedules don't work out, because Danny has a lot of work to do with Halloween. Right. And so there might be a few dates where we need to have someone else stand in, but we'll get around that. And it's great to, change people around and keep a fresh thing going,
Right.
It's great.
Well, let's talk about the new album, the 17th studio album, Dirty Dynamite, out on February 22nd overseas there in Europe, out March 5th here in North America. To me, it's more old school boogie, and it's got that more old school boogie and dirty rock vibe than anything you've done in a while, if not ever.
Yeah, definitely. We really got bluesier than ever, and it's real vintage Krokus, like from the early days of Metal Rendezvous, Hardware, One Vice at a Time, Headhunter. Mm-hmm. It sounds really raw, And actually, for us, it's a challenge. We love the simplicity of playing with only a few chords, and building up the tension with that is, when you have so few chords to go with, it's a big challenge to build up the live tension, and that's why this band needs to have, just like a lot of other bands today, Ozzy, Whitesnake, you need to have a powerhouse of a drummer behind you to get the tension and the excitement, And as I said before, we've played live, and it's feeling good, and we're getting the fans fired up, and so are we.
Right, and there's so much great stuff on this album. I want to talk about a few of the songs, but you guys are not new to covers, obviously, but you did a unique cover of the Beatles' Help on the new album, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah, well, it's not only a number which is, we glorify the Beatles, we have a whole list of bands that we love, and the Beatles is one of the top amongst, the obvious, like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, AC/DC, But they started a lot of new things going, you know. And this song Help, you know, it's like something which gave us goosebumps when we were kids, when it was played by the Beatles twice as fast. So that's why we decided it's a good idea to go with a slow version of Help and change it into a ballad so that the chords that are there and the feelings can really be bluesed up a little more, so that the feeling comes across as how can I say, like to put more power into the dose of melancholy that comes across. And for me, it was, even though the structure is not like a normal blues song, for me it's like singing the blues, you know. And I'm glad we picked it up. But at first we had our doubts if it would fit with the rest of the songs. But you know, being a ballad, you have to allow a ballad a little bit more space on an album, you know.
Right.
We're happy with it, and every woman and girl that's heard it so far has picked it as their best choice. It's really going down well with the girls, which is always good to have, you know, a song like that on the album. And but we definitely didn't forget the boys.
No, there's plenty of great rockers on there for the guys, and I love the rendition you did of Help anyway. But the album is just packed with great stuff, and you guys also tapped Dennis Ward of Pink Cream '69 fame to do some sound engineering or sound recording with you guys again. He did the Hoodoo album. What's the connection?
It started off. Dennis did the Hellraiser album first.
Oh wow! Okay.
Where he was actually sound engineer and producer on that, and I did a lot of guidance within the band, you know, regarding, you know, keeping the excitement in there. I was the only Krokus member left in the band at the time, and then I took Mandy into the fold, you know, and then Mandy recorded his first album with Krokus ever, thanks to Hellraiser. And with Dennis it was great working with him. And then with when we did Hoodoo, Chris, who was back after the reunion, he said, "Well, let's go with Dennis. He's fast, you know, fast on Pro Tools, because even though we record everything analog, how can I say? We like with the old amps, with all the old microphones, and to get the raw sound. In the end, it goes into Pro Tools for the mix, you know, and this is where Dennis is great, you know.
Yeah, he's very much a magician with that stuff. That you guys, and it's great that you guys do the analog. It's very organic, very vintage, and it really gives it that powerful sound that you're looking for. So
that already with Hellraiser, I insisted that I have a microphone which I hold in my hand, and then Dennis said, "Well, no problem. I'll put it through a tube." And he put it through the tube, through the desk, and then into Pro Tools in the end, you know. So it was like, I don't know what the hell he did, but it sounded warm, and things got better and better. And for Dirty Dynamite, you know, we were in the Beatles studio, I call it, Abbey Road Studios.
Right.
And Dennis came up with this microphone. He said, "Mark, I wanted to try this one." He said, "There's no harm in trying. It's the first afternoon. Let's find a microphone that really is suited for your voice." And he gave me this old-looking thing. Looked like something from the Second World War, and it was a heavy microphone. He said, "You can hold that in your hand, no problem, like you did for the past two albums. Only for the past two albums, I used the Shure SM58,
The classic.
And here
The classic microphone.
Yeah. For usually the live classic,
Right.
And here he gave me this and said, this is Freddie Mercury's his favorite album in this studio. So I took it. I said, when you hit the high notes, it's not going to hurt anybody's ears or anything. He said, it's a really great mic, and that's why Freddie likes it. So, there we were in Abbey Road in the Beatles studio where the Rolling Stones did stuff, the Pink Floyd recorded albums, Let It Be and all those memories. And there was really something mystical which really got my energy really on such a high. And I finished the whole album in 2 days and left the fourth day for going for the ballad. I took Help. I gave it a whole afternoon with tea breaks in between. It's like a painting.
Right.
You walk away from the painting and take another look, and then from a distance, and then go for it again, and really try to get the best out of it. And it was really inspirational working with Dennis, and of course Chris. With Chris, I had a great time since 2 years ago, driving down to his place through rain and shine and snow, over the pass down to Solothurn, working on demos. It was really nice. We had a great time between pizzas and red wine and lots of exciting talks and philosophizing about everything, and it was great. So in Abbey Road, we really knocked the nail on the head and put the cherry on the cake,
Yeah, it came out wonderfully and very warm, very organic, very well done. The sound is incredible on the album. Let's talk about a few of the songs. Obviously, we already talked about Help. Are there one or two songs on this album that perhaps speak to you personally more loudly than the others?
Well, Go Baby Go is my personal favorite. It's a song which is like, it's all about, like, everybody has their ups and downs in relationships and arguments, problems, fights and everything, but in the end, just let's go, baby, go, move forward, like leave things behind that are damaging, and and it's also a little bit symbolic to the whole Krokus past, if you like, because this band, probably like no other band that I know of, has been through so many musicians and so much bullshit, ups and downs. It's like being to hell and back. So I love that song. And then there's another one which I really dig. And at first, Chris came up with a title, Better Than Sex. And I said, well, you really want to stir up a Pandora's box with that title. I said, we're not going to get airplay because of that title, And in the end we said, well, to hell with airplay. Let's just go for the song. We've got other songs on the album, enough songs there which are like worthy of airplay.
Oh yeah, you got plenty of radio-ready anthems on there.
Yeah, that's it. It turned out so. A few nice melodics like "Dirty Dynamite" and even "Yellow Mary" is a one of a kind song.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite song on the album, and I want to find out the story behind that one. But before we get to Yellow Mary, take us back to Better Than Sex and tell me what you were going to tell me about that.
Yeah, Better Than Sex is actually, it's just saying it again, our songs this time, I think the majority of songs on this album are, like with the Beatles again, talking about relationships, mostly, and less about politics and stuff. I think people are fed up of politics at the time being, So anyway, and it's all really about give me what you like. You can give me money, give me material things, and in the end, there's nothing better than passionate love. It's like, okay, the title sounds very harsh, but if you look into the songs and the lyrics, it's very, it's meant to be in a romantic way, in a passionate way, like two lovers, when they have sex, it's not the negative kind of sex, it's passion, it's flesh meets flesh.
Right. Well, you're never more vulnerable than you are at that moment. Two people together, clothes gone, very emotional, very out there. You're never more vulnerable, so.
Exactly. It's like totally exposed, and looking into her eyes and the expression of the emotion, the unity, you cannot be more united than at that very moment, So then you can be on the road, you can have millions on the bank, and what are you going to think of before you go to sleep? Your other half, your better half, if you like, you're going to miss those moments, and that's what it's all about,
Nice.
Like going deep into the intercourse part of the relationship,
What is the story behind Yellow Mary?
Well, Yellow Mary is like, you're walking through the park and you see this beauty, in my fantasy she's like this innocent beauty with flowers in her hair, like an angel that fell from a dream, and she's mystical, and there's something about her and a total magnetism, and then she takes you to a place you've never been before. That's in the lyrics. You took me to a place I've never been before. You encounter something new with somebody new, and then you're hooked, and for you, she becomes the light. It's like your life changes. And God forbid you lose her. It's that emotion of that moment of discovering this is it, she is it, this is it. You're totally out of your mind. You've met somebody new. You've just fallen in love, and you're all like full of light. It's when a relationship, in the beginning of a relationship, it's the best part. You don't have to work at it at all. It's just happening like magic, Well,
and that's the part that's better than sex. It is.
Well,
it's that emotional sex. It's that mind sex of that being in love, and that everything that's going on shooting through your body and your head and everything. And it's like it's the greatest feeling in the world. That jubilance, if you will.
Yeah, and today, we see it in our children. I see it in my teenagers, and when, my son is fresh in love and, been together a year, and they're out snowboarding right now. And, wow, so happy together, Imagine me and you, I do.
Perfect.
Boy.
So, well, and as I've already said, Dirty Dynamite, the new album, is phenomenal. But let's take it back a little bit before we get out of here. This year marks the 30th anniversary of Krokus' seminal Headhunter album. It was your first gold album in America, I believe. Can you take us back and share some memories of that time and maybe a bit of trivia most fans might not be aware of from that period?
Yeah, well, this was the period when Krokus was like really at the brink of making it big. It was, we were sitting out in a mountain home in Arkansas with Bob Ketchum on the recorder, and we had this huge tin-roofed warehouse in the middle of summer. It was like amazingly hot in there, and loads of, like we had all these drinks in ice, and we were just walking around barefoot with shorts and suntanned, and it was this kind of atmosphere. And we were writing songs for the Headhunter album, and Tom Allen visited us, the English producer who did Screaming for Vengeance and others with Judas Priest, and he flew in and to listen to the demos, and we wrote the lyrics for the title song Headhunter while Tom Allen was with us. We all had a beer in our hand, but we were writing lyrics. I was coming up with a lot wherever I got stuck, they helped me in, kind of, well, just say this. And we were all influenced, like, by the movie Conan the Barbarian. And Screaming in the Night was an idea I had whilst the band were rehearsing. They were working at the music, and I was sitting outside on a rock in the sun, just burning, but I was in total bliss, I love that kind of heat. And I just started fantasizing about, with Conan in the back of my head and all my other fantasies and my own creative juices flowing, and started to see these, like this army of wild people, you can call them Vikings or whatever, like from the north, attacking, landing and coming into the valley where these, peaceful people were living, and they came in and destroyed, and they killed. What in the fantasy, I saw myself as one of the braves whose girlfriend, whose wife, whose woman was killed, dagger in her heart. And then comes the whole vengeance thing, in a corner of the valley. We took them by surprise, and the sound of steel rang loud, and the whole thing, and the whole emotion of the thing I put into words to the music, and then I was going in there and singing bits and pieces and coming back out and writing another bit and going back in and singing it until Bob had it all down on tape, and then that was it. When we finished each song, we then rehearsed them as best as we could, and the next step after that was to go to Florida and record the whole Headhunter album at the BJ studio in Orlando.
Right. And
that was also a great experience. So, screaming in the night, fighting for my life, I'd die for you. It's been a nice 30 years.
You guys even had Rob Halford from Judas Priest made an appearance doing some backing vocals. Even Jimmy Jamison of Survivor.
Yeah.
How did those two end up on the album?
Well, Jimmy Jamison was the connection was our manager, because Jimmy was in Memphis, and Mandy Meyer was in Memphis in Jimmy's band. They were called something else then. And then Jimmy went to Survivor.
Right.
Right after they had the hit Eye of a Tiger. And Mandy started something else going, and this was after Mandy had done his 2-year stint with Krokus as a live musician. We toured the hardware tour. He took over from Thomas Kiefer.
Right.
And now he's back. So, yeah. And with Robert Halford, it was a totally other story. We had toured with Judas Priest before, and we knew the guys, but due to the connection, due to Tom Allen, who was their producer too, you know, he just picked up the phone and asked Rob to fly over, and Rob was, yeah, I'll love to do it, and it was great, you know, so we could spend some quality time together and get some good work done, you know, and those memories live on, you know, it's nice experiences.
Well, and the other thing, it's been almost 30 years, is it's been almost 30 years since we had some sort of a live rendering of Krokus with the classic lineup. I think it was 85, the album, 86, the VHS back then. Are there any plans for a new live reckoning with the classic lineup, a DVD, CD set? And if you guys did do something like that, would Freddie participate just for that, just to have the whole lineup together?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're always open for that, you know. You never know what's going to happen. Freddie might give up his 100% job, which he's doing right now, you know, and then he might have more energy, and, you know, but he actually, the problem was that he couldn't bring up the power that's needed for doing a whole Krokus tour.
Right.
And having a job, doing a job 100%, where he's like in the higher etage, if you like, he's like, he has about 30 people working under him, and they're all female.
Nice job to have.
So I guess he feels like the king, you know. Yeah. Anyway, but and we asked him. We said, hey, Freddie, why don't you cut back and just do your job 50%, and you'll have more power and energy and physical power and mental power for the band. So in the end, he threw in the towel himself. We didn't kick him out, you know. He just said, guys, I'm gonna step down, you know, just like the Pope just did, you know.
Well, I just say, if you guys did do a new live DVD set, which hopefully you guys would do, because like I said, it's been almost 30 years, you've got the classic lineup together, it would be nice if Freddie at least performed for that show or shows for that, just to have him on there, but, you know, he might have the power for that.
It would be. No, I know what you mean. And we definitely want to do something live and leave something behind when this band eventually calls it a day. Because, you know, the other thing against us is health and time. You know, the only thing actually which is against us is health. Because as long as everybody's healthy, we can do it, you know.
Yep, and you never know when it's going to happen when you get to our age. So.
Exactly, you know. But the Reaper has his own agenda.
Yep, you never know when the body's going to say, you know what, I think I'm just going to throw this kink in there. Listen, I've had you for a while now, and I got to get you out of here. But before we go, I got a couple of quick things for you. Taking you all the way back when you were growing up, was there a moment of epiphany for you, whether it was a song, an album, a performance, who knows, maybe it was the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, I don't know, where you saw that and said, or heard that and said, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, I guess it started very early with me. I started singing at 14. I was self-taught, and and I guess it was when I left school that I realized, you know, I started learning to do a 9-to-5 job as a guy. Today you call that a logistics. And then I realized, no, I'm not made for a 9-to-5 job. I want to put everything into singing and be like my idols, you know. So that's when I left my island against my will, the island where I grew up,
right
in the middle of the Mediterranean. Beautiful place, lots of history, nice people. And I gave that up and flew to London, went then to Switzerland, and I'm still here today. And, you know, luckily I could balance it out well enough to even raise a family, and my wife and I are happy. We have a 17 and a 19-year-old kid, and I'm still doing my rock and roll, and, well...
More than 40 years later, you are still screaming in the night.
Screaming in the night.
Marc Storace of Krokus, the new album, Dirty Dynamite, out February 22nd in Europe, March 5th in North America. Famous last words, my friend?
Famous last words. Well, as you see on the album cover, all I need to say is, woof, woof. That's something from a word from our sponsor, the Bulldog.
Marc, thanks so much for taking the time to rock with us.